everybody, it's Jamie here from Lemon Rebellion, and I am here to introduce you today to Michelle Atlas. Hey, Michelle.
Hi.
It's great to have you here. Well, let me tell everyone a little bit more about you before we get started. Michelle Atlas is a professional certified coach with ICF, which, if you don't know, is kind of the gold standard in coaching. And she empowers deep, creative, and intuitive women to reclaim their self-trust so that they can create change that they didn't think was possible in their relationship to money, their businesses, and themselves. She's one part business coach, one part resilience mentor, and one part spiritual guide, one part soul purpose midwife. Michelle taught top U.S. federal government leaders how to strengthen their resilience and effectively navigate nonstop change when President Obama was in office. And she's also the co-author of The Superwoman Entrepreneur, How to Turn Your Breakdowns into Breakthroughs, author of Daily Ohm Course, Overcoming Money Shame, and currently writing her first book, The Sovereign Woman Entrepreneur, to help women bring the depth of who they are into their businesses. And she also coaches and speaks internationally on the psychology of money and living resiliently. And she's presenting at Lemon Rebellion this September. Michelle, it's so good to see you. Tell us more about, who you are and what you do.
Oh, thanks so much, Jamie. Yeah. So I'm a transformational coach, and I help women really. I work with a lot of female entrepreneurs, but not exclusively. And really, the journey of empowering yourself has so much to do with shedding the contrived ideas, the conditioning, the false identities that we all take on throughout life to fit in, to feel loved, to feel accepted, and really, more of a homecoming to who we have always been, and what we have always had to offer that we tend to lose touch with along the way. So a lot of the work that I do with women is really helping them to release the barriers that are in the way of the greatness that has always existed. Yeah, so that they can create prosperous businesses and, passion-driven careers and wonderful relationships and whatever else is important to them.
Yeah, that's incredible. Well, I'm really excited to have you as part of the group within Lemon Rebellion. And I know you've done a lot of work around this idea of what does neuroscience tell us about change and loss? Can you give us some insight into that?
Oh, sure, absolutely. Yeah. You can't really talk about resilience without talking about neuroscience, without including neuroscience, and that's a good thing. So, I mean, neuroscience tells us that we are actually wired to grow and evolve through challenge, loss, and change. And however, what needs to happen for that potential to be fully realized or activated is that it has to be self-directed. So what that means, if you have a terrible loss or hardship or a change in your life, even a job change, even something as benign and common as a job change, in order to benefit and sort of grow through it, become something greater, have new experiences through it, that you have to self-direct. You have to hold that intention. And what that means is, potentially self-direction can mean reflection, it can mean journaling, it can mean meditating, it can mean processing with friends, it can mean reading wonderful books, basically anything that's going to feed your brain uplifting and new information that has to do with where you're going or who you're becoming rather than where you have been is going to kind of activate that innate potential to grow and evolve through challenge, change, and loss.
Yeah, that's very insightful. How can we connect with that? Do we do that because that's just who we are? Or is that something we can learn to do and strengthen in the face of adversity?
Yeah, that's a good question. It doesn't automatically happen. No, it's something that we have to choose, so that's the whole idea of self-direction, is that, we ourselves have to choose. We have to want, to grow. We have to want to cultivate resilience. We have to want to find meaning, find richness in our losses and changes. Sometimes, in a sense, sometimes a person will just bump into deeper meaning in their life or deeper understanding through an unexpected loss or change, but more often it's kind of it's like a lens through, that the resilient person navigates life through an orientation. It's like a growth and learning orientation to life. You have to be willing to say, what is there for me to learn from this? How can I sort of, find the gifts inside of this difficulty? And I want to just speak to that a little bit more, because what I don't mean when we hear a lot of talk about finding, making lemonade out of lemons and, finding the good in everything. And sometimes, that in a certain way, if we move too quickly to finding the gift, we are denying grief, or we are denying, a whole range of human experience and normal human emotion. And that is not a resilient approach. So we're not talking about, quick slap a positive spin on something,
Yeah.
but we're just talking about sort of a dropping, back and down within, and sort of a sense of faith, faith and trust in life, that even if you don't understand what's happening to you right now, or what has happened, that you will find your way, that, meaning will be revealed to you, that maybe new possibilities will open up eventually that you can't see, you may not be able to see right away. Maybe eventually you might feel some gratitude, but not, not to be artificially feeling like you have to force any of that, because that's how you keep it from you. Actually, the good stuff comes by the allowance,
Yeah.
and being really fully present for yourself in, moment to moment, and what you're actually experiencing.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that you pointed that out. Just the
Yeah,
authenticity really of acknowledging the experience for what it is. And it's not about putting on a fake smile and pretending like everything's okay when it's not. That's a good
right,
point.
right.
That resilience, like you said, begins with the grief and the processing. And then maybe when the time comes, moving forward into some of these other tools like gratitude and looking for the lessons learned and evolving with it.
Right, right, exactly. And the self-direction can be as simple as being open, to those lessons, or to discovering meaning,
Yeah.
as
Tell us.
opposed. Oh,
Oh, sorry,
I'm
go
sorry.
ahead.
I was just going to say, as opposed, it might be even clearer if I juxtaposition it with, as opposed to somebody who becomes, who feels like a victim and becomes embittered and resentful, and we might, anyone can experience those kind of feelings
Sure.
when something tough happens, but the difference between the self-directed person who strengthens their resilience through life, and the one who doesn't, is that, the latter would maybe crystallize in that resentment, in that embitterment, feeling like a victim, and kind of stay there, as opposed to visiting those kind of painful or difficult emotions, and then ultimately traveling through them.
Hmm. Tell us, this is an off script question, but tell us
Yeah.
how does how we define our identity play into who stays stuck with crystallizing in the resentment and who's able to transform and move through it. How does the identity kind of play a role in that, how we see ourselves?
Yeah. Um, Really good and really deep question. Um, some people, so when we, so since we're talking mostly with women during this summit, I'll speak, to and about women, where, we've been acculturated for decades, and some of us also conditioned by families to, in some cases, really kind of abdicate some of our natural gifts, such as intuition, creativity, some of those more sort of mysterious ways that we can know things, that we can be guided. And so when we kind of abdicate those natural ways of being, as a woman, then we also abdicate our authority for our own life. And when we abdicate that sense of self-trust and authority, like, I know I'm the best expert on me, when we stop feeling, when that stops being a part of our identity and our orientation to life, it's a free fall, and we are absolutely setting ourselves up to feel like a victim of all sorts of fluctuating external circumstances and events that we can't control.
Mm.
But when we have what would be called in resilience psychology an internal locus of control, so meaning that we know that the power starts in here,
Yeah.
that we are really our own authority. It doesn't mean that we don't take support. It doesn't mean that we don't learn from others, that we, that we're not open to that. But it means that ultimately, I'm sovereign, I'm guiding my own life. I can trust myself to do that. I can trust that I have the wisdom, the intuition, the knowledge, the skills, and if I don't, I can develop them.
Yeah.
So if you're in that mindset, then you're not likely to take all of the difficult events of your life so personally and feel victimized by them. But if you've abandoned your authority already, and you just feel like your whole life has been a process of being tossed about by others, whether you intentionally allow that or most often it's unintentional, then you might be much more set up, much more prone to taking a difficult hit as a victim and feeling, kind of a why me sort of response.
Yeah, interesting. Thank you
Does that
for,
answer your question?
yeah, absolutely. And thank you for explaining it. I think that's a very interesting perspective and kind of insight to be able to have. And I'm sure for a lot of people that was really helpful to have it explained. So thank you. Tell us a little bit more about the differences between just surviving, through a difficult time or challenge, and really thriving while still honoring the grief. I imagine that is part of the process.
Right. Oh, absolutely. So surviving, I'm going to just put my computer glasses on here. So it's just a little bit
They
clearer.
match your outfit. That's really lovely.
Oh, do they? That wasn't intentional. They're just computer glasses. So I'm at that point where it's just like just a little clearer with them, and so why not? Yeah. So surviving is, that's another great question. So surviving, so when we experience a hardship or a loss or a challenge, there's usually some kind of a descent, in some way we kind of, we go down and, whether it's with, some kind of upset, again, difficult feelings such as anger, resentment, grief, whatever. And then the resilient person will rally, basically. We'll go through a process and we'll move into coping, and then ultimately they'll move back to surviving. They will move back, which means that they've come back to their baseline. So surviving means that you come back to where you were to begin with. That's surviving. Now, the distinction between that and thriving is really significant, because thriving, in this resilience continuum is beyond surviving. And that would be, and so, in the studies that have been done, the majority of resilient people survive. They come back to where they were, and, things feel okay again, but it's familiar. It's kind of, they come back to what was their normal.
Sure.
And then there's a minority that doesn't survive well, and they stay down, and whatever that means. It could be depression, it could be anger, it could be embitterment, whatever it is, they stay there. There's another minority that goes beyond surviving to thriving. And what that means is that those people, through the impact of whatever occurred, they become something that they never would have had the difficulty not occurred. So it opens them to an experience of themselves, to a change in perspective on life, or a change in perspective on themselves, that, it opens up, a motivation to pursue, talents that may have been dormant, or, start some sort of movement or initiative they may never have launched if the difficulty had not happened. And ultimately helps a person become more whole than they would have ever, more whole and more fully alive than they may have ever been without the event. And so that's something that really exceeds just surviving, which is just like, okay, back to normal. There's a real difference. Most often, when we talk, like, in terms of, again, resilience psychology, because the word thriving is thrown around a lot, but if we're talking about what it means specifically in this context, usually that happens when the event or the circumstance that caused the hardship is, the impact of that exceeds the resource that the person is. So they get hit harder than they can tolerate. And so there's a softening of defenses, and there's a dropping of pretense. There's a dropping of guards and protectors, and there's just an opening, kind of, this is where the broken open heart comes in, and just a whole really cathartic transformation that usually includes a fair amount of grief as part of the cycle comes into play. It's where people say, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me, but it was the blessing of my lifetime. When you hear those kind of comments, you're talking about someone who's ultimately going to be thriving, not just surviving.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for explaining that difference. That was really useful. I know also that in the work that you do a lot of work with money empowerment. How does that tie into resilience?
Sure, yeah. So money is such a hot topic for all of us, right? And it is especially hot for women because the money story for women is usually about a lot more than money, and it has so much. And usually, it's about one's sense of worthiness or self-worth ties so deeply into that. So we all need money resilience, to do whatever our soul's calling is, whatever it is we really feel we're here for or are passionate about. And a lot of the time when women come into my world, they're struggling to make more money or have a more empowered relationship to the money that they have. And a lot of the advice in the marketplace can be more one size fits all kind of approach, which doesn't work for everybody, and leaves people feeling like more of a failure than before they even tried something. So what I've learned over the years is that we each have a unique money personality. We each have specific money gifts and strengths and specific money blind spots. So I became licensed in this wonderful work, money archetypal work. It was authored by someone else, but I'm licensed in it. And so I offer people the opportunity to take the money archetype personality quiz free of charge, and it'll flesh out your money personality really quickly. You'll learn, when you understand your own money gifts and strengths, you can play to them. These are portals to money flow that are unique to each person. And if you're trying to be somebody else, which most of us at some point in life, we're following
Yeah.
somebody
Give it a
else's
shot,
list
yeah,
of,
someone else.
especially with money shoulds, right?
Yeah.
Somebody else always has a good list of money shoulds, and we're trying to fit ourselves, into that box. So when you learn your money gifts and strengths, you can play to them. You can stop trying to be somebody else. And when you understand your money blind spots, they become illuminated, and you can learn the lessons and make different choices. And people experience different results quite quickly. So it's a part. The money piece is a part of. I weave it into everything else I do with the women that I work with.
Oh, that's incredible. It sounds like fun. Everybody loves a good self-assessment. So I know
I know, don't we? Right.
we're going to include the link to that on your page within Lemon Rebellion's website, which will include the
Yeah.
link below the interview here. But thank you, Michelle. Give us a little insight. What is the experience that you're going to be guiding everyone through who comes to join your session at Lemon Rebellion? What can they expect? What will you do with them?
Yeah, well, I'm so excited about that because I feel like this is such a meaningful piece of the resilience journey that I want to offer people. And really, we're going to be talking about how your toughest times um, hold incredibly precious clues to your soul's deepest calling, whether you're in a career or you have your own business, whichever way, whatever your path is, or even if you're retired, and you're looking for, meaning and richness in life now. Some of our most difficult times, what I find with people is that there's sort of a golden thread that's run through a person's life, and it shows up at all of the tough times. And usually there's sort of a lesson at the heart of it all of each of these tough times that is very transformational for a person. And very often when someone is in a career or a job and they're doing okay, but they're not deeply lit up, they're not deeply satisfied or, fully just, inspired by what they're doing, it's because they're not bringing that deeper soul calling piece, that's that unique medicine that is only theirs, into their work. So I'm going to guide people through a journey of really looking at how they can discover that deeper, maybe missing link for them, and what it means to then convert that into meaningful work. Because the bottom line again is that when you're in your soul's deepest calling, you'll make more money. Money will come with greater ease, less effort. The whole money struggle piece kind of disappears because when you're moved by your own work, other people will be moved by it as well. And I've learned that through my own experience, and that's what I love helping other women do.
Awesome. Oh, well, I'm really excited about you, about having you join Lemon Rebellion, about the experience that you're going to guide everyone through. I know that with the all access pass, you're going to be offering an extended session as well, so that if people that come to your, your first session that you just described, if they want to go deeper into the work, there's a way for them to do that within the event, which is really incredibly exciting. I'm thrilled for all that. Any last words, little nuggets of insider wisdom you want to share before we close our interview today?
No, I mean, nothing, there's so much, right? Nothing that are no little nuggets. I think we've touched on some. I think we did a great job of touching into a lot of big nuggets in a short period of time. So this has felt great. Thanks so much for the opportunity to share all this.
Oh, we're just, again, so pleased to have you, and what you do and who you are it needs to have a platform to be shared with more people. So we're thrilled to have you. So for everyone who's listening, if you haven't signed up yet, Lemon Rebellion is a live virtual summit happening September 19th to the 25th. You can get your tickets at www.lemonrebellion.com. And Michelle Atlas is joining a team of over 30 other speakers, life coaches, and wellness practitioners, helping to equip women to navigate major life changes successfully, to be more resilient, find their joy, and live a life with more ease and meaning. So thank you again, Michelle, for being here. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you at Lemon Rebellion.
Bye.
Bye-bye.